Calling all beings, y'all. Let's get it.
Put your hands together. Put your hands together.
Yes, welcome back to Calling All Beings. I'm your host, DJ San Marco, here with you on a Wednesday night with another special guest. We keep bringing you dope people. I mean,
That's right.
And when I say dope, I don't mean in the way that you guys think of me as dope, which is in the actual sense of the word. I mean dopadelic people. All right. So I'm your host, DJ San Marco, along with my co-host, the amazing, the not to be compared, the deep, the thoughtful, the intellectual. Nathan, what's up? At
What's
Awake
up?
Soul. Woo!
Holla.
And now let's get to what's really going down tonight. There's been a lot of stories that you guys have heard. People have shared their experiences with the phenomenon, with beings. Most recently, Anjali, who's probably also been in contact with our next guest from Alabama. Party people, put your hands together for David John Lanier. Woo! He's my bald brother. Yes. And let me tell you something, David. There are going to be some very deep and intelligent questions tonight, and you're going to find that most of them will come from me. Okay, the more shallow, sort of meaningless stuff, that would be Nathan. So let me just give you an example.
We lost him.
Oh my God, David, where are you?
He'll be back. He'll be back.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
He'll be back. He's going to come
Keep
back.
going. Yeah, he'll be back.
Well, no, I can't keep going because he needs to be there for the joke.
All right.
When you get
He's
to
coming
the
back.
punchline,
He's back now.
there he is.
Sorry.
Okay.
It's all good, man. It's all good.
So as I was saying, the deeper and more thoughtful questions will more than likely come from me. And I'll just give you a sampling right here. So, David, tell us what happened. No, I'm just kidding.
It's
And
about
this
as
is the
deep as it
part.
gets.
Yeah. I knew you'd love that, Nathan. Okay. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my aforementioned brilliant co-host, Nathan, to kick this off. Brother.
Yes, thank you, DJ. David, great to have you with us this evening. We are very, very fortunate to have you on the show and are looking forward to hearing your story. As we've talked with you before, we want to make sure that you feel comfortable and feel a part of our family when you're on the show. And so we're going to do this in the way that you want to do it. I know we've talked a little bit about kind of where we want to go with the show and kind of the direction that we want to go. And so I think we'll get started here, and maybe you can do a little introduction. Tell folks what you want them to know about you, and then let's start with where things got really going for you in the late '90s.
Okay. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah,
Yes,
sound
sir,
great.
loud and clear.
Okay. I mean, as far as my personal background, I don't fly FA-18s. I didn't work for the government. I don't have incredible backstory. I married young. I had a family young. I worked in real estate for the last 20 years on different levels. I played music for a while, and I raised. Yeah. Oh yeah. I've accomplished some pretty cool things, but I don't want to really wave that around as a way to convince people that I'm not full of it and credible. I mean, I'm willing to answer any questions, or what have you, if people have them. But I don't really feel like, bragging on myself to make myself sound credible. I'm a pretty ordinary dude, I guess, aside from whatever the hell happened. But I'm just wanting to talk about it because I really do have faith in this disclosure movement that's happening right now.
Mhm.
I wasn't a part of ufology for a long time because it's so convoluted, and I, you know, I was involved for a little bit and then I left, and now I'm back in it because I really feel like there's people making some smart moves and getting the ball rolling, and I just kind of feel like I've got this thing that happened to me, and I've told some people, but I haven't really done it in a public way. I've left little bits and pieces on Twitter, but I haven't just kind of like sat down and told the whole story. And you guys were nice enough to approach me and let me do that, so that's why I'm here.
And
Yeah,
with
great to have
with that credit that we've built up, does that mean that you'll play guitar for us to close out the show?
Hell no.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Maybe next time.
And Nathan, back to you.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, we'll work on our little ensemble piece for the next show. I think that'll be great. So David, where do you, again, we really appreciate having you on, and I know this is not easy to do, and so we don't take that lightly. But where does the story really start for you?
Let me preface all of it by saying I'm fully, like, I have one foot in the normal world where my parents and my in-laws are very educated, hardworking people. On, the family on both sides doesn't get into this kind of stuff, and
Yep.
I respect that. And there's a part of my life, of our lives, that doesn't really want that in it. But then there's another part that, I went through it, and I'm fully aware of how absolutely crazy this sounds to just the average person who just got off work or that has other things going on, and there are other things going on in the world. So I just want to preface it by saying that I'm fully aware of how crazy this all sounds.
I listened to Ryan Bledsoe today, David, and when you listen to his story in his background, it's not very different from your background. Guys from the South, his father's out hunting, doing things like that, fishing, and these things happen. So nobody in the town is like, oh, wow, you must be absolutely out of your mind. If we were in Sedona, Arizona, people might go, oh, wow, that happened. Wow, they believe, right? But that's it's just a function of where you grew up. But please go ahead, sir.
No, I'll just go ahead and get into it because I was going to say,
go for it.
There's just so much I could say, and it's a lot. Like this story covers about 3 years roughly, and it covers my wife, my children, my mother, my brother-in-law, me, some acquaintances. So it's hard to tell, and I do kind of want my privacy to maintain a little. Again, I'll answer questions, but I don't want like skeptics and debunkers and researchers and investigators like
right
up my butt trying to find out if my mom who she says she is, or
right,
all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So, saying that, I'll get into it. Okay, so 1997, I'm 17 years old, and I'm a straight arrow kid. I might have smoked a joint, like a couple puffs off of one, had half a beer and passed out. I was a good kid. This would have been like 97, and I was on the way home from a concert, and it was an outdoor concert, so this would have been like late spring, early summer, summertime, around that time. And there's a friend in the car with me, and we're driving home. We're going north up the interstate. We get off the ramp, and I look to my right. Look to your left, look to your right. It's a two-way highway in a small town. And there's this blimp that's, I'm not a great judge of like how far away things are, how close things are, how high they are. I'm going to roughly estimate that it's probably 3 to 5 miles away, and it's over the city. And it's not terribly high off of the horizon. Like I'm not having to crane my neck, I can see it out the windshield. And it's a blimp. It looks about the size of a blimp, maybe a little bigger. And it's got a little cap on the bottom of it. And I remember this vividly, because I stopped myself because I know people are like, well, memory degrades over time. And it does, but like, I don't remember what I had for lunch at my grandmother's funeral, but I remember seeing the body in the casket. Things stick out.
Absolutely.
So I see this little cap on the bottom of it, and I think that thing's awful small for the people. And then I noticed that it has the same cap on top of it.
We lost him.
Oh, we lost him. So we were lost at cap on top, cap on bottom.
Yes.
Doesn't necessarily lend itself to what a blimp looks like.
Sure.
So that's
he's coming
interesting.
back.
Yeah.
And
Are we good?
Yeah, we're good. Welcome back, man.
Okay.
We lost you on the size of the cap on the, and you were talking about on the bottom as well as on the top.
Yes, there was a cap on the bottom of it, too small for people. I was confused. Same cap was on top of it, and then the whole thing is shaped like a blimp, or like a liquid Advil.
Yeah.
Okay. Advil
like
liquid
a gel
gel
cap
type
or
thing.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like an oblong kind of stretched out
Sure.
oval. And it has like 2 grooves carved out in the side of it, or like 2 indentions in the side of it, and it's just moving peculiar. There's an airport near my house, and small planes will kind of like bank this way or bank that way or up or down, and they have like a red, and this was just like a steady, just slow moving across the horizon, and all the while this thing is flashing like multiple colors. Like I can't explain it. It's just like almost looks holographic.
Yeah.
And
so the whole surface of the object is doing that.
Yeah, and it's giving off this like purple, pink, reddish hue, and it's also emanating red light. So the way a Christmas light looks from a distance, and it has points of light that come off of it.
Yep.
It had that. It had several kind of points of light that were coming off of it, and it's just kind of moving, just slow and steady. And I'm sitting there, and it just, and all of these thoughts are coming to me over the course of about 5 seconds. I'm watching it go, and I just go like,
and what were those thoughts?
It was just processing what I saw, just going like, is that a blimp? Why is that so small? Why is it multiple colors? Why is it glowing red light? And then I thought, and I have to preface before I say this, I was not into Star Trek. I was not into Star Wars. I was not into conspiracy theories. There was no reason for me to be thinking anything other than like, I saw some episode on Unsolved Mysteries in the 80s or early 90s, or I had seen like an alien movie. And I just thought to myself, like, is that a UFO? And there's and all the while, my friend is next to me in the car. And as soon as I thought that, and I'm not saying it's connected, but as soon as I thought that thing just went, I mean, it took off like it had been shot out of a gun. It just went from like slowly moving to just suddenly like in the blink of an eye, just this tracer. Because it was at night. It was probably about 12:30 a.m. And there's like this, I left that out, 12:30 a.m. roughly.
Okay. Yeah.
Give or take 30 minutes. And it's just this tracer, this red tracer just stretches across the horizon. And you can see it way off at the end of the tracer. And it's like a bulb. And then all the way back to where it was is just a point, just a tip. And it looks like a sperm that's just been like stretched out.
Yeah.
It might be a bad analogy, but that's what I thought when I saw it.
Sure.
And then the the tail closed up behind it about this fast. And
Interesting.
as soon as the tail closed up behind it, it was just a twinkling red light, like a star or a planet, same level on the horizon. Like it was just on a level, and it just kind of twinkled and got dim, and then whoop, it was just gone. It just disappeared.
Wow.
And I looked to my friend, and he looks at me. And for the researchers and skeptics and debunkers and investigators, I haven't talked to that guy in 20 years. I'm not just going to cold cock him out of the blue and be like, "Hey, man, you remember this?" Because I got people from UFO Twitter that want to know. But
Right.
Hey,
Sure.
hey, David, can I interject for a second? Don't worry about refutations of anybody or trying to qualify based on any skeptic or any idiot that's out there that just likes to get on there and tell people they're lying or something. We don't care. We're here to interview. So just tell your story and don't even worry about qualifying, because I have zero worry about these people and their thoughts. So let's hear from. I want to hear from you.
Okay.
Okay. So
my friend turns to me, and I turn to him, and I can't remember if I said it or he said it. He said, "Was that a, And we just laughed hysterically, just laughing. And I remember thinking, like, man, I just like won the lottery or got struck by lightning. Like I realized that this was a UFO. I don't know what that meant, but I just was like, oh, this is like the movies or like the Unsolved Mysteries or something, and I'm just one of these people that just happened to be privy to it. I just caught it, and it did kind of feel like it had been caught, like I'd seen it at 12:30 at night pooting around, and it just went whoop.
Did you stop the car and all that business, or were you just watching through the windshield?
I was at the top of the exit. You know how when you get off the interstate off an exit ramp, and you get to like the top of the exit, and you kind of have to sit there for a minute, check traffic both ways. I was parked.
Okay.
Got it.
So
a pretty brief encounter, you would say, just a few seconds,
the whole thing was literally probably within 10, 15 seconds.
Okay.
Wow, that's a lot longer than mine was. And you know what? See, there's something, and Nathan, there's something to be said for him stopping at those off ramps. A guy like me that blows through that stop sign, just kind of rolls through. I missed the UFO.
Well, yeah, no, please obey local traffic law. That's what I would suggest.
And if you do that, what could happen? You might see UAP.
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
You're back, David.
Okay. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if that's on my end. I assume it is.
Do you have two nets in your house? Do you have like I have two nets? Do you have two different nets? And maybe your wife is using one and streaming, and then if you go on the other net.
No, I'm out at the lake. I'm out at the lake house, and it's it's kind of I'm the only one out here, so
it's no problem. You're not gone for long, so anytime you leave, it's just a chance for DJ to interject.
Hey, you know what? I haven't talked to David yet about buying, maybe 5 of those 100 acres, but that's going to come after the show.
Yeah.
Please continue.
Totally.
Please continue.
Yeah.
Not for sale. So
1 acre.
No. Okay. So when that happened, I don't remember the drive home. I remember dropping him off. I don't remember driving home. I don't remember discussing it. But then again, this was like 20 years ago, over 20 years ago.
Okay.
So I just don't recall it. I'm not saying there was anything weird there.
Right.
But I do remember going to school the next day and, talking to my friends about it. And, 50% of the people were like, no way. And then the other 50% were like, that's weird. Tell me more. And I didn't obsess over it. I just kind of was like, wow, that's neat. But I didn't become a conspiracy guy. I didn't become obsessed with sci-fi. I just kind of went on with my life, and it didn't affect me. So that was, the first sighting, and it coincides with something else that was going on in my life that's later down the road that I can get to later because I don't want to jump around the story. So fast forward 10 years.
Okay.
2007.
17. Wait.
2007.
2007. Sorry.
Yep.
And I'm working the late shift at my job, and the guy that was with me, it just asked me a question out of the blue. He's like, "Hey man, what do you think about UFOs?" So, 10 years passed. I don't really, it's not a part of my life. I don't think about it. And he says, "What do you think about UFOs?" And I'm saying, well, the universe is a big place. There's exoplanets. I guess it's, it's possible. And then suddenly that whole scenario of seeing that UFO just came like rushing back into my memory. And I was like, oh my God, like I've seen one. And so he gets me to tell the story, and I relay the same thing I just told you guys. And, then he tells a story about something he had seen. And on a small tangent, I have found that in these little discussions I have with people, about 5 out of 10 people will have some kind of like paranormal story to tell. And the other 5 know somebody. So it's really not uncommon. I just don't think a lot of people talk about it.
Agree.
So
Yeah, people don't.
He suggests to me, he was like, "Have you ever listened to Coast AM?" I'm like, "I have." He's like, "You should listen to it, and you should look into the subject, especially since you've seen one." I'm like, "Okay." So on the way home, I listened to Coast AM, and it's I think it's Dolores Cannon, and she's talking about the Indigo Children.
Yep.
And I'm just kind of going like, "What? Like, what am I hearing?" And the next day, I Google it. I just Google like UFO. And the first thing that comes up at the top of the search is Bob Lazar. Yep. And so again, I'm coming into this subject knowing nothing. Okay, nothing other than the fact that I've seen something. I'm not I didn't even watch Star Wars until I was in my, mid 20s. This is off my radar totally. So I watched the Bob Lazar documentary, and I'm just like, my jaw's like on the floor. Like, I don't have an army of debunkers telling me this guy's full of it. I'm just listening to this guy tell a story. I'm not sensing any, lies. And he's like, yeah, aliens are real. The government knows. We have access to their craft. And I'm not 100% sure, but I think they had something to do with our creation. And I was,
oh wow,
did
he say that?
Yeah, I think, the way he tells it is that he's not sure what disinformation he was fed and what information he was fed. Right. But he was briefed on that. That 600,000 years ago, they came here and integrated their DNA into Homo sapiens, and about every 600 years would come back and upgrade, and here we are, and they're still kind of coming around and tinkering. And so I have no context for this information. Yeah, I'm right.
No, go ahead. Keep
no,
going.
I was just going to say, I just want to just go around. So the voice you're hearing and the experience you're hearing is that of David John Lanier, our guest. He's going to talk about his experience both seeing and standing in front of, interacting in his house with beings. My co-host, of course, is the amazing Nathan at A Wave Soul, and I'm DJ San Marco, your erstwhile host. Please continue.
So, I have no context for any of this. I'm not into ufology. I don't know that did he really? Did he not? I'm just listening to this guy talk, and I'm going like, holy mother, like, is this for real? Because I've seen one. Like, I've seen a UFO, and it actually, the one I saw kind of sounds like something he just described. Is that what's going on? Because, like, I was raised in a Christian home. I left Christianity, became nihilist, studied Buddhism, experimented with psychedelics, just trying to figure out, like, God and the universe, and, like, what's going on. And I'm like, dude, that's it. It's aliens. Like, so that might have something to do with, like, everything else that is about to happen, where my mind went with that.
Sure. Shift of perspective.
that's what I'm thinking. And so that, to get to the next part of the story, I start studying it. I start studying the subject, and I'm not like super in depth into it, but it's on my radar. And so around this time, I have a music project on the side, and my brother-in-law, who's a cartoonist, is drawing the album cover. And he sends the album cover to me. I gave him the music. I said, draw whatever comes to mind. Just listen to the music. And so he draws a UFO. And he was like, is this a good album cover? And I'm like, dude, no. I was like, what is this? Because I'm sitting here.
So unprompted, you didn't ask him to draw a UFO. He just drew what came to mind. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And so he sends this. I'm like, oh my God, and that's when I start picking up on the concept of like synchronicity.
Yep.
And so I'm going like, okay, wait, because I'm also learning about like telepathy and grays and Zeta Reticuli and Betty and Barney Hill and all this kind of stuff. And now he sends me a drawing of UFOs, and I'm like, this is not going well. Like, where is this going? So, okay, this kind of thing goes on for a while. I don't know how long, because this was about 2009 that I'm kind of going down this UFO rabbit hole.
Yep.
Not like super in depth. And I know I just kind of jumped from 2007 to 2009, but 2009 is when like the meat of this kind of started.
Sure.
And I'm downstairs in my basement folding clothes, folding laundry, because the laundry room's downstairs. There was a little window. It's the old house. It's next door to my new house. It's all on the same property. And I look out the window, and there's this light, and it's just kind of like, it looks like it's moving around like this. And then there's two other smaller lights kind of moving around near it. And I'm like, no way. And I just get scared. Like, I'm like, no. And I look out, and I swear, like, one of the little lights flies up and touches the bigger one, and like just disappears into it, like just becomes one with this thing. And I'm like, that's a star. I'm going crazy. And I ran upstairs, and I look out the window in the blinds, and I'm kind of a little panicked, because at this point my wife didn't know about any of this. This was kind of like just in the basement,
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
Doing God's work down there, and she didn't know anything. And she's like, what is it? And I'm like, I think there's a UFO outside. She was like, what? And so I look out the window, and it's moved from, it's hard to explain, but it's moved from here to over here.
Okay.
Now, what is the size of the window we're looking at, just to get your aspect? Are you looking straight out? Or are you looking up? Is this a picture like a sliding glass door?
It's just a wooden door, and it has a long rectangular window.
Got
that's
it.
eye level. And that picture I sent you of like the 180 of the backyard, that where the trees meet the sky, that horizon is roughly eye level. Copy. And it's right above the horizon, not too high up above it. And by the time I come upstairs to look out the window, it had moved from there to here. So it had gone over and up. And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, you've been reading about this. Apparently they're telepathic. Let's test that out. And I say, if you can hear me, fly down. Or I can't remember if I said fly down or fly up or fly over. I think
this is in your mind or out loud? This is
in my mind, because my wife is sitting there, and I don't want her to think I'm nuts. I'm just like, fly up. And there's a tree that's in my line of vision. So there's branches, and I just see this thing go like up past the branches. And I'm like, oh. And then I'm like, if you can hear me, fly over, and again, in relation to the branches, it's going like, and it'll kind of move over, and I just freak out, and I just shut the blinds, and then it's like, what are you looking at? And she comes over, and she looks out the window, and I just see this like her muscles in the back of her neck just go like, ooh,
Mm.
you know, like chills kind of thing. And she was like, I don't see anything. And if you knew my wife, you would know that she's like the queen of just like, there's work to be done, and I'm not dealing with this.
Right. Block it out. Yep.
Hey, David, can you give us an approximate size of this object compared to either just what you think or relative to the other one you saw, the first one?
Big.
So this is a big one.
I would assume, like, again, I'm not an aviator.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an aeronautics expert, so I'm not a good judge of distance and height and size. It was far away, and that's kind of a key part of the story.
Okay.
It's far away. I don't know if
It's not
like,
in your yard, is what I'm saying.
We
Ah,
lost him again. He'll be back.
I know. You know what, though? I'll tell you what. I'm willing to upgrade his internet service. You know, just
Well,
for
when
the
you're-
next month at least.
When you're out of the lake, it happens sometimes.
Yeah. Hey, this happened. You know what? I would like to have lake house problems.
Right. Exactly.
I would like to have a lake house. I would like to have 100 acres of wooded land in Alabama.
Right.
And I'm sorry, Nathan. Bring me back, man.
I know.
Bring me back.
It's all good. All right.
I'm
Couple,
sorry,
welcome
guys.
back. No, it's fine, man. Don't worry
It's
about
okay. I was dreaming about lake property. It's okay.
it.
Okay.
I'm in an
All right, I'm back.
location with bad Wi-Fi.
I'm back.
Exactly.
This
It's
is
all
what
good,
happens at Area 51.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's all good.
Go ahead.
Well, so as far as how big it was, I'm guessing it's sizable, like not like enormous. I don't mean like mothership, but like it's not one of these smaller kind of things that
Got it.
some people see, like, you know, that's, you know, roughly the size, a little bit bigger than a sedan, but just like a disc.
Okay.
Felt like it was bigger than that.
Mm-hmm.
But not like, you know, mothership kind of thing, but just a light, just like a white light.
You know, I just want to say, just because I haven't heard too many of these, but Anjali's confidant, Nick Larkin, said he and his mother in the backyard saw one the size of a football. So imagine, you know, something comes in your yard, it's the size of a football and flies away. I mean, that's bizarre, right? Bizarre.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So Nick Larkin, what's up, brother? Anjali, say hello to David John Lanier. All right, let's go. Go ahead, brother.
Okay, and so I see that shiver go down my wife's spine, and I'm like, she saw it, but she's not going to admit to it because that's the kind of woman she is, and I don't fault her for that. We're all different.
Sure.
Mhm.
She gets back in the bed. I'm freaked out, like I'm seriously bothered, like disturbed, because this thing just responded to my request.
Right.
Query. Yeah.
And all this stuff I'm researching is suddenly like, like, is this true? Is this real? I go take a hot shower until it runs cold. And then I come into the bedroom and watch Scrubs, which is an old TV show. I don't know if you guys
Oh yeah,
familiar.
it's a good one.
I think
It
it's
describes my sports career, actually. But anyway, go ahead.
funny. I needed to laugh, and I needed to think about something else. And
Right.
this sadly began about, I don't know how long, of me having to sleep with a light on in the room. A
Wow.
grown
Wow.
man needed a nightlight. Okay. And
Sure.
I'm not ashamed to admit that, because I just telepathically communicated with a light in the sky that responded
Right.
to my request.
Freaked you out.
I'm a little disturbed. So this is the point where the story starts getting blurred, because so much happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to make the point that they approached me in phases. And the first phase was far away. It was lights in the upper atmosphere. You know, like I said, way off. I don't know how far, but way off in the horizon. Small. I mean, I don't think they were small, but away.
Okay.
And I saw, I had moments like that little story I just told you,
Mm-hmm.
so many times that I don't remember all of it. I do have video footage. I set up a tripod and I put my little, this was 2009, I put my little 2007 8mm camera on a tripod because this was happening so frequently that I was like, I can film this. I can prove to people this is happening because I feel like I'm going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I went back and I looked at some of the footage, and as time went on, I did kind of go like, okay, that's probably a scintillating star. That might be a helicopter. That might be a plane. That could be a space station. That might be a satellite. I started learning about what's in the area.
Sure.
Also, and I'll go ahead, you know, full disclosure, I live 40 minutes south of the Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville, which is a major jet propulsion laboratory for NASA and missile defense development for the Army. So there's every chance, you know, Lou Elizondo was on a podcast recently saying there's AI being developed that's going to be able to tell, and they've already run something through it. Turns out it was an Army thing. So, I mean, that's very possible.
Right.
Initially, it got closer and it got weirder. And I don't suspect military at that point, but initially it's far away. And some of the video footage I don't even remember taking. As far as putting that out, I don't want to get hammered. You know, I'm a pretty sensitive person, and I don't want to get hammered by people that don't believe me or that, you know, are going to mock me and belittle me and try to ruin my story. I'm kind of like, believe me or not, I might put it out, but there's a couple of clips that are pretty interesting, one of which was during the day. And I can tell you, I do remember one of the daytime sightings. I was Googling the occupation of Afghanistan, and I was, you know.
So we lost him again.
Yeah, it's fine.
So guys, we are calling all beings. I'm your host, DJ San Marco. This is my co-host, Nathan at A Wave Soul. And our guest, sorry, Nathan, I was... And I didn't mean to say about it. And our guest is David John Lanier, trying to tell his story. It's very difficult to tell these stories because, frankly, probably most of the people that he tells don't believe him. Yeah. And that's why I didn't tell my story for 30 some odd years. I know it's real. I don't need Mick West or somebody to tell me what I saw. I saw something rise above the tree line in Sunday night in Peekskill that lit up the entire sky. I mean, that just blew my mind. Yeah. Different colors. Yeah,
totally. It looks like he's back, so we'll get it back.
Okay. Let's get him in.
Sorry.
All right. Welcome back.
And that is our aforementioned special guest, David John Lanier. We are calling all beings. We love you, UFO Twitter, and David's here to share his story. Please continue, sir. And by the way, sir, as far as sharing your video, you don't have to share with anybody. You don't have to get affirmation on it. And one of the reasons I say that is a lot of times it just doesn't show up on film the way it shows up when your eye sees it. You see it, you know what you're looking at. And when it is, you kind of know it is. And it's not necessarily going to show up on film. It wasn't meant to be filmed. It's not man-made. It's not synthetic. So you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
So go for it, brother.
One of the videos, one of the scenes I caught was during the daytime. I had multiple daytime sightings, and one of which I was keeping up with the news about the occupation in Afghanistan, and I was learning about civilian casualties and just the horrible stuff, and I don't know why I was looking at that. Oh, I do know why. It had something to do with my art project, and I was putting together a slideshow for people, and there was a lot of innocent civilian war casualties that were part of the slideshow. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. But I started crying because I'm thinking. And so I went outside, and there was like a star in the sky. Like 2, 3 in the afternoon, there's a star in the sky. I'm like, oh my God, it's one of those things. Run back inside to get a camera, run back out, it's gone. And that kind of thing happened multiple times, like something that looked like a Coke can or something, just sideways like this. It's not a satellite. Satellites aren't that low in the sky.
Right.
You know, there were a couple of daytime sightings like that. Most of them were at nighttime. But again, during this phase of it, it's far away. So again, when I go back and look at these videos, I don't even remember taking any of them, half of them. And so this whole part of the story just gets confusing. I don't, and it was 10 years ago, you know.
Sure.
And so they got progressively closer, these things. The first one I remember being really close, I just saw, you know, coming in at, my house sits at 1,000 feet above sea level.
Wow.
But it's probably, this thing's probably 150 feet in the air. And it's just this red light and an orange light, like way far apart, coming right at me over the field. I don't have any recollection of why I was outside or its approach. I just remember just a red light and orange light, and they're far apart. I was like, that is a big ass plane not making any sound on the other side of those trees. Whew. And then the orange light, it turns, it like pivots, and the red light kind of stays in one position, and the orange light goes like this, and then it flies directly over me, and then it turns a white light on the other end, and I see it, and it's a triangle. It's just this big black triangle. I mean, easily the size of my house, if not bigger.
Wow.
And it has this big protruding like bowl off the bottom of it. I say bowl because that's the shape. It's big. Not like
So you were kind of at an off angle to it then. You weren't directly underneath it. You could tell there was
I was direct. Well, yeah, I guess so. But it had like, you could kind of, it was nighttime, but the moon was bright, and you could kind of see like this kind of silvery gray, black, metallic sheen to it. And the bottom of it, on the big bowl that was off the bottom, it had like a series of holes, just black holes. I don't know, it was just a square grid of black holes on the bottom of this bowl. And then suddenly the grids light up and go boop, 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 and it just makes this pattern that's like braille. It looks like braille. And then they go whoop, and all the lights go off. And then it goes boop, 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 and it makes another pattern that's different. Still looks like braille. All the lights go off. It does this like 3 or 4 times.
So you're looking at the bottom of it now. It's almost like hovering above your property.
Yeah, it's hovering above me. I mean, and you're right.
Above you, right above you.
Yeah, it is a little offset. Like it's not directly above me. It's a little over. But I just think like that thing, whatever it is flashing lights at me.
Right.
Like it's not. It's waving at me.
Right. Some type of communication is trying to.
Is your wife is she freaking out? Like, are you freaking out?
Oh no! She was doing laundry. She's not aware.
Oh yeah, this is great.
Wow.
Hey, honey, get back in here. Your underwear's almost done. Oh man, we lost it again.
Yep.
All right. She might be on PlayStation 3 right now. That might be what's screwing him up, or on Twitch. So okay. Yeah, this is really interesting. Now, imagine you're having a contact, Nathan, where you're like right under craft.
Yeah, like, no, it's hard to imagine that for sure.
A lot more visceral than what. Hey, if your wife's on PlayStation 3, tell her that she can get. I'm just kidding.
She's not. It's just. I'm sorry.
It's all good, man. It's all good.
I'm assuming that due to the data transfer, I've probably got like 5-10 minute windows before I fart out.
No, it's
That's
all
all
good.
good, man.
All
Yeah,
good.
we're happy.
So-
I mean, like you've already. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nathan, because you've.
Well,
already-
yeah. So, okay. So, just a quick recap. So, the experiences, the contact, the sightings, they've been increasing over time since 2007 when you kind of had that another experience with them, and now you've got a large black triangle in the night sky. There's a moon out in the sky as well, but this triangle has a rounded sort of glowing white bowl in the center of it, and at the bottom of that bowl, sort of facing the ground, is you described it as kind of a square grid-like pattern of dots that are animated in a way that almost like a pixel screen that can kind of pop in and out of those little black pixels can pop in and out and change configuration. Is that an accurate recap?
Pretty much. The bowl itself off the bottom was black, and the
bowl was black. Okay.
But it was almost like recessed lighting.
That was in those little black slots.
Yeah, within the black holes there were lights, and then
Right.
the lights were coming on in a pattern.
Gotcha.
Got it.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
it's flying over me, and of course, I'm just like I'm freaking out, and I go inside. And I just hear static in my ear, just in my head, just like, like ringing in my ears. And I sit down at the bottom step of the basement, and my wife's doing laundry, and she's like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "I just saw a UFO again." And she was like, in her mind, she's like, "You need to stop with that. It's bothering you, clearly." I was like, "I can't help it." I was like, "I didn't ask for this." She's like, "Did you?" And so
Right.
then I hear,
Hell yeah, I'm asking for it.
so then I hear in my head, and this is the first time I hear a voice. Okay. And I know this sounds like schizophrenic, but this, I haven't had anything like that happen before or since. And it's like this, almost like the vibe of what they're saying is just like, calm down, like almost like, damn, dude, like everything's fine, we're not gonna hurt you. Almost like when a child gets scared of thunder.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's okay, Jesus, okay. It was like that kind of tone. And I'm like, get out of my head, I'm going nuts. And I go into my little basement office, and all my studio equipment has gone into disco mode.
Okay.
Which means all the lights are flashing and the levers are moving, and my computer's farted out, and my other electronic equipment's farted out. Is that coincidental?
Wow.
Maybe.
Probably not.
And so
Probably EMI.
that was like the first kind of like close, because again, it's going in phases. It's way out here. It's getting closer, and now it's like on me.
Yeah.
And so this starts like the second phase of crafts being in close proximity and hearing voices. And I mean, one time I was sitting in the living room, I heard a voice that's like, "Come outside." And this was like the female voice. Some of it was like a group talking. It sounded like multiple people talking at once. And then one was like a female voice, like if you talked into an empty tin bucket, the way it kind of echoes back in your ears, it has like that ping to it.
Yeah.
And kind of like that, but like a female voice, but in my head. And oddly enough, I have met somebody on UFO Twitter, 2 people that have heard the same thing. And then I watched that documentary the other night on Netflix, the unclassified thing, and I didn't even realize the Pascagoula guy in Mississippi, same thing.
Calvin Parker and
no. And so I don't realize it at the time, but I hear this voice say, "Come outside." And I go outside, and there's like, white light in the sky. And, I mean, again, I'm outside. I'm in my backyard. I could just go on and on. And I look off to the left. You know, I showed you the woodlands out there, and off the horizon, I just see these 2 white lights and a red light slowly rise. There's a radio tower on a hill, and it's slowly rising like this, you know, next to the radio tower, as if to say, "Do you see me moving up and not at you?"
Right.
But I'm going like, "No way, that's a plane coming," and just because of the whatever, you know, it looks like it's rising. And then the 2 white lights go off, the red light goes off, and then across the front of the wingspan was just like these lights, like purple and green and white, and I think orange was in there, definitely purple and green and white, just like a Pink Floyd laser light show, just and then they all went off, and the 2 white lights came back on, and the red light came back on. And now it's not moving up anymore, and this is miles away. It's not moving up anymore, it's moving at me. And then again, the 2 white lights go off, the red lights go off, pop, 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 pop. The row of lights go off, and then the 2 white lights come off. So do you see what I'm saying? It's kind of sequencing between whatever's across the wingspan and these 2 white lights and the red light underneath. And then I go like, oh God, that's one of those things. And so I turn around to walk back to my basement door, and I've counted the steps. It's 30 steps. And, you know, 30 seconds or less walking quickly back to my basement door. I turn around, and this thing is on me. It has gone miles in less than 30 seconds or less.
Yeah, wow.
And it's like, okay, here's me. And this thing is like here. And I can see it's a boomerang.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But it's angled. Okay, if my hand was the boomerang, it's angled like this.
Okay.
To where the front of it is facing me, and I can see the points of
the top of the wing form
pointing at an angle up in the sky. And I'm like, that's not flying, that's hanging. Because there's no aerodynamics happening at all. And that is the boomerang. And then, and it's right above a tree, and the average tree is about 100 feet tall. And so it's probably like 110, 120, you know, pretty close. And again, with the lights across the front of it, pop, 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 but this time it's close. And I'm like, and not unlike that black triangle, I'm like, this thing is going like, hey. You know, like it sees me seeing it, and it's waving. And so I don't remember it moving from angled and facing me to right above me. But when it's right above me, it's a lot closer. Like it's below treetop, and I'm guessing 50, 60. And the 2 white lights on the bottom and the red light cast this like pink glow on the bottom. I can see it clear as day. It looks like a croissant or a boomerang or a banana. And I'm just going like, and it has like, it looks like ice cream cones with a scoop of ice cream, almost like bird breasts on the bottom of it.
Okay. Yep.
And it's making like a luxury car that's in idle, like something's running, but it's not roaring.
Kind of a hum.
Kind of a hum to it. And it passes over, and this was one of the few, and I don't know if this was before or after all the other stuff, but like I wasn't scared. This one didn't freak me out, and it wasn't big. It was, you know, it would have been big enough for 2 adults to sit in, maybe. And it flies over, and I'm watching it fly over, and the 2 white lights on the bottom side of the wing, which, by the way, I could see when it flies over, and they were like, it was just so smooth. Like, it didn't look like it was, nothing was bolted. There were no flaps. There was no soldering. It just looked like it was just neatly tucked into it, the 2 white lights. And the 2 white lights went off as it goes off, and then the red light drops, just like goes, but it maintains pace with it. It's probably going about this fast. And the red light just drops and maintains pace, and it's about 10, 15 feet below it. I'm like, dude, that's one of those orbs. That's not a light that's attached to the craft. That's one of those orbs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's red. And then the back, oh God, this hurts my head. The back of the craft, where the tips of the wings would have been, these red lights come on the back of it, and they just multiply. They layer, and the craft looks to get thicker, like its depth grew. But these series of red lights came on the back of it, just like doo, 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 doo. And I am awake. I am sober. I'm not on drugs. I'm not drunk. It was Easter Sunday. My kids were looking for Easter eggs up the hill, several acres away at the neighbor's house. Wow. And this thing flies over where they are. A little white light turns on top of it. The red light disappears. The white lights come back on. I was like, it's pretending to be a plane. And then it kind of angles and just flies off over the horizon of the trees. So, and
if I understand now, David, your wife doesn't want you to interact with these, and what draws you to the interaction?
I don't know. I'm not requesting this. I'm not. No CE5 was performed. No DMT trip was done. There was no means of any kind of connection being made. They sought me out. I'm convinced of that.
But in your feeling, like, because if they say to you, come outside, and you go outside, something's telling you to go outside.
Yes. I don't.
Is it your heart?
No, it's like literal. It's that voice that I described, like when you're talking into a tin can. Like it's. It's like
okay? That. Do you feel compelled, or do you feel? How do I say this? Do you feel it was of your own volition, or do you feel like you were compelled to go outside and interact?
I remember being like, son of a bitch. Now what? Like.
Kind of annoyed by it in a way.
A little. And I remember sending a text to my wife, like, another UFO just flew over, boomerang, close, could have thrown a rock at it. And these people that are like, oh, wow, okay, let me back up. I don't mean to mock it because I don't know. Yeah. But that this idea that it's just an extension of ourselves, or we manifest it from our own mind, I'm like, dude, I could hit that thing with a rock and it would have gone thunk.
Yeah.
Now, I'm in close proximity to the NASA Jet Propulsion Lab. Is that something out of there? I have no idea. But these things are getting closer and closer, and the shapes are varying wildly. Now, I hate. Stop me if I'm boring you guys.
Well, no, I actually have a question, and I apologize if you are going to get to this, but all right, we'll come back to it as soon as he comes back on.
Back to it.
A cliffhanger question there.
See, when Nathan gets a question, it really something happens in the universe. That's how good it is.
Oh,
we are calling all beings. We are not going to talk about our Powerhouse Roundtable that we're in the process of playing right now. We are going to talk to David John Lanier, and Nathan has a question that he would like to pose to you. Please go ahead, my good friend.
Yeah, so David, when we talked earlier, you had mentioned to us that you had a physical effect on, I think, your arm or something like that. Is that before or after this incident?
During, like, as they're getting closer, like they went from just being the lights to progressively getting closer to the point where I'm seeing like boomerangs 50 to 60 feet above my head that I could literally hit with a rock.
Right.
And it was during that time that these kinds of things were happening, which really freaked me out. And I should also add that at this point I had stopped filming because this was, 2009, 2010. And I just kind of felt like it was really personal, and they would come closer if I stopped filming. And at one point, they told me, I don't know, oh my God, that to stop talking about it, to stop filming it. And so, you know, I did, and that's when they started getting real close. And I was like, okay, this is like just a one-on-one thing. This is like they don't want everybody knowing this is going on. This is just personal. This is very personal. They don't want other people to know what's going on. If I don't film it, they get closer, and I can figure out what's going on with all this.
Yeah.
Do I need to wait? Did he just die?
No, I think he just turned his webcam off. It's fine.
So, you know, and then.
So it has kind of an intimacy to it in a way, like this was meant for you, or just meant for you only, really, not meant for other people to know about.
Yeah, pretty much. And that kind of ties in later. And this is why it just gets so confusing, because I could go on and on. There was a metallic sphere, just a ball that came. Again, these things are like below treetop level. Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming between 80 to 100 feet, like clear all the time at night. There was one craft I saw during the day. I'm not sure what it was, but does he need to come back?
He asked me to take him off the stage for a second, so you're good. Just keep going.
So the sphere is coming below treetop level, and it has it's just like a ball. I don't know how big it is. Probably like, you know, it's not big. 10, 15 feet in diameter, give or take, you know, 5 feet towards 20, not towards 5 feet. It's just this ball, and it has like these little red lights that are above and below it. Probably about 8 or 9 small red lights above and below it, and they're undulating, just like getting does that make any sense? Like they're getting further away and closer, and they look to be attached to antenna.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, these aren't orbs, because now they're attached to some kind of antenna, and they're undulating, and it's flying. Again, it's not high, less than 100 feet, not far away, less than 50 yards away. And again, at this point, it's like so regular that I'm just like, well, what now? And so this light comes on, like a headlight, just a single light, just right ahead of it. So it's going like this metal orb. This light comes on, shining straight ahead, and then the light goes and shines on me. And it shines on me for like 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi. Then it swings the light forward, and I don't remember what happened after that. I'm not saying anything weird happened. I couldn't fit in that thing. I don't know what's going on.
Right.
It's too small.
Excuse me? Yeah, like I would guess somewhere between 10 to 20 feet in diameter.
Got it.
You know, roughly. And I guess I'm telling these particular instances because these are where they were shining lights on me as if to communicate. But now we've got a triangle, we've got a boomerang, we've got a sphere. And I'm going like, is this a parade? Am I being privy to multiple species right now? What have I done? What do you want with me? What's happening? There was another where it was just an X.
I've heard of that before as well.
I had not. I thought I was going nuts. I don't tell people about it because I'm like, I've never heard of an X-shaped craft that's literally not much bigger than my car. And here's the X, and on 2 of the points, there's red lights, and they're swimming through the air like this. They're just going like, and I mean, they're swimming around the craft. And I have no recollection of what happens after, before, why I was standing there. I'm not saying anything weird happened. It was 10 years ago. That's all I remember. There was another where there were like these 4 gigantic orbs of orange light, probably 20 to 30 feet in diameter, all next to each other in a row, just boop, 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 boop. And then there was a smaller 5th one in the middle above the 4. And they were just slowly drifting at me. I ran inside. Stayed out of my mind, took another hot shower till the water ran cold. And so I could go on and on and on.
You know, let us, a lot of people that follow ufology have seen something, and now it's actually interesting. You've probably seen more shapecraft than anybody that I've talked to, other than probably Lou Elizondo has probably seen,
Mm.
every shape that's out there. But I think what is fascinating to the viewers is to hear about experiences that you had with them. And as we've gone just a little bit over an hour, so tell us about the interactions that you had, to the extent that you want to. And if that's not something that you want to talk about, 100% don't talk about it. But the things that you told us were pretty interesting to have between you, your wife, and some members of your family.
Okay, so real quick, I saw another black triangle that was much smaller fly over an intersection, and it looked like the TR-3B thing.
Oh wow!
It was little, and there were people around, and nobody looked up. And I was like, "Are you crazy? Like, am I crazy? Are y'all crazy? Are you that numb?" Yeah, and then there was a second where another one flew over. I mean, low, just this giant ass. Oh my god, like safari hat looking thing. I'm looking at it. Everybody's just talking, and I look up, and nobody's looking up, and I'm like, what is happening? And at this point, I had disconnected myself from ufology and from the study of it because I didn't want cognitive bias to occur and for me to be like confused by the issue. I was just letting this naturally be what it was. And I was like, these people are not seeing what I'm seeing, or they're numb to it, or I'm going crazy. It's one of the three. And if this is the military, is there like a gold mine under my house or something? What's going on? So,
well, Richard Dreyfuss, the character in Close Encounters, felt the same way. He felt like, am I going crazy? And supposedly that story is based on real events. Is that right, Nathan? That some of that is based on real events? Okay.
Steven Spielberg did his homework.
Oh, he did.
Yeah,
he did. And Jacques Vallée was a consultant on that.
So I'm sure it was kind of like a culmination of a lot of things. And I mean, at this point, I was building mashed potato mountains.
Yeah.
Hopefully with gravy on there. I'm just saying,
But like, I'm metaphorically speaking, it was getting to that point where I'm like, dude. And so now my wife is getting on board. She's like, okay, something's happening, because she sees one with me. We're leaving to go somewhere with the kids in the car. Oh my God. And there's this safari hat looking thing coming through the trees. I mean, it's so far down in the trees that it's in the forest coming up the trail.
Wow.
And it's got like two headlights shining right at me. I was like, Anna, do you see that? She's like, yes, I see it. Get in the car. I was like, this is historic. Do you see this? She was like, get in the car. I was like, okay. And I get in the car and we leave. But it had gotten like that casual to where this was just like, whew. So my wife's getting on board now because she's seeing stuff. My kids are seeing stuff. My oldest daughter has seen like some kind of green. She tried to explain it to me, like some kind of green disc with green lights on the outside that was like rotating around over the interstate.
Hey, David, did the conversation between you and your wife shift at this point? Because now, up to then, it had been you seeing things and her telling you, get inside, don't go look for these things. And now she saw it. Did anything change at that point?
Yes. And that's where things shifted to. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's when things shifted to phase 3, where now we're seeing beings. Okay. So one morning I wake up, okay, and keep in mind all this stuff is going on. And that's not even, I have told a fraction of what I saw, because I'm getting into like a manic episode while I'm trying to explain all of this stuff. And I'll leave from this conversation and remember more craft.
Right.
So I could just go on and on. Point is, they're getting close. They're following me around.
Mm.
Okay, like I went to Atlanta, took my dad to a Braves game, and thought in my mind, I want one of these things to show up. And sure enough, one did. And my sister was with me. And I was like, do you see that? She looked at me. She's like, David, stop. I was like, okay. And my dad was like, is that a helicopter? I was like, no, Dad, that's not a helicopter. Like,
wow.
Here. And they and that kind of thing went on, like Nashville, Atlanta, Birmingham, Huntsville, wherever I was going. I was seeing these things. I'm like, dude, are they following me? Am I going nuts? Okay, so my wife is starting to see these things now. One morning, she's folding clothes, and she said, David, one of those things was in the bedroom. I was like, what do you mean one of those things was in the bedroom? She was like, an alien. And I'm just like, what? She said, yeah. I was like, where was it? She said, it was over here. She turns her back. She was like, it was up here. And our ceilings are 7 feet tall. She said it was either 7 feet tall or it was floating. And it looked like it was coming through the wall. And she's got no inclination of any of this stuff. This is foolishness to her. She still thinks it's foolishness, although she's aware it's real. And I was like, coming through the wall, great. Because again, I'm a virgin to this thing. And even though this is happening over the course of years, I'm like reading something going like, they can come through walls. And then my wife, who knows nothing, she's like, it might have been coming through the wall. I was like, help me God. And so I said, what did it look like? She was like, like light bulb shaped head, big black eyes, little mouth, little nose. I said, did you see its whole body? She said, I only saw its torso, like from its arms up to its head. She said, I thought I was seeing things, but then it shifted its weight and it moved. And she said, I dug my fingernails into your bicep and you were just dead. She said, I tried to wake you up and you wouldn't wake up. And I was like, what did you do? She said, I pulled the covers over my head and I prayed to God that it would go away. And she said,
David,
those things are demons.
David, if I could jump in here, and I apologize, Nathan, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's fine.
What do you, so you were being kept asleep for some reason?
I have no idea. I have no
Okay.
recollection.
Okay. Second part of the question then would be, why would they do that? Because what do you think they're trying to do?
My wife was pregnant. And I don't know, but I did ask him. And that comes a little bit later because all along the way while the craft were getting closer, I would ask for them to show up because I couldn't believe that this was happening. I was like, y'all can hear me and you're in crafts and these are aliens and you'll show up if I ask? Proof. And so now we've got a being in the house coming through the wall. I have no idea. I don't want to speculate, but all I know is she told me, and she's got some long fingernails. That she dug it into my arm, trying to wake me up, and I didn't wake up.
Yeah.
And so now I'm beyond scared. I'm like, I mean, I'm in a panic. I don't know, and this is where the story is going to start kind of jumping around because then the dreams started, and the voices increased. And I do think that what they told me and the dreams are relevant, but my mind just went blank. But
what were those things?
I'm trying to. There were more beings. If I could jump across real quick, my son woke up one morning and said he woke up in the middle of the night and was stuck to the ceiling and he heard footsteps on the roof.
It's okay. It's all right, David. It would scare the hell out of anybody.
Absolutely.
Okay. Pull it
to be in this situation.
And then he had this thing. He had this lump in his foot that looked like about the size of your pinky. Just this lump in his foot, and it has since concaved, and it's now this just concave scoop in the bottom of his foot, and it hurts him to walk around. So, what? So, And then my daughter, my 5-year-old daughter, wakes up in the middle of the night screaming bloody murder. And then the next day she's just like clinging to me. She won't talk. I'm like, what's going on? What'd you see? She keeps like side-eyeing this like bottom pane in the window. And she was like, there was a big bird staring in the window and it had big eyes and a pointy mouth. She's 5. And I'm like, okay. And then my wife, like, okay, so now I have to stop and say, now I'm talking to them. And when I talk to them, I'm outside and I can see a craft, you know, and I don't have clear recollections, but I'm like, I just recall one night, like having my hands on my knees, I'm gagging, I'm crying, I'm stumbling around like I'm drunk, I'm not drunk. And there's these 2 orange lights on the opposite sides of the tree line. And I ask, and I'm having a conversation. I'm like, we got to get to the bottom of this. Since you can hear me and y'all are in my house now, I want answers. What's going on? You know, this is starting to feel a little bit violating. And so, oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying
It's a lot of, it's very violating, not even a little bit.
Yeah.
So I ask it, what's the deal with God, heaven, hell, Jesus, the devil? And I can almost remember verbatim what I heard. Am I going nuts? Am I having a schizophrenic episode? I don't know. I don't think so. And they said, she said, we cannot reveal to you the answers to those types of questions because it would defeat the purpose of the faith that's required to believe in such things. Then I ask if there's anything to the 2012 phenomenon. This was like in 2011. I said, not in the way that you think. There will be chaos and destruction, but life will go on. And this was right after Haiti had happened. I was like, similar to Haiti? They're like, yes, but life will go on. And then not long after that, the tsunami hit Japan. And I'm just watching the TV going like, dude, is the world about to end? You know, and then I ask, and most of the time when I'm talking to them, I'm seeing a craft outside. And sometimes it's just sitting on my sofa, you know, because the relationship at that point had gotten like, I could just like punching in a TV channel.
Yeah.
And I ask like, why is this happening? They're like, we can't reveal to you the answers to those kinds of questions because you wouldn't be able to handle it. But it'll make sense as you continue to live your life. And it's necessary. And I'm like, that's vague. Try me. And it's like, you know, in transmission. Are you doing this to my kids? Are you doing this to my pregnant wife? Yes. But nobody's being hurt. Nobody will remember anything. And it's all for a purpose, a good purpose. Trust us. Calm down. Everything will be fine. I'm like, no. No. Stop. Whatever you've got to do it to me, but leave my wife and kids out of this. Then I come home from work at 11:30 shortly after saying that, and there's this teardrop-shaped craft hanging like 80 feet above my house, just hanging in the air. It's got like 3 big white lights on the bottom of it, little green like tip wings. Looks like a pear, but like laying on its side. It's just hanging, and I'm like, they're waiting till I'm gone.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking at it out my windshield because my car's parked in the driveway, and it flies over me. And I lean back because I don't want to face the reality of it. And I look back out. It's like a glitch in the matrix. And there it is again. It's like a skip in a tape reel. And it flies back over me again. And then around that time, my wife was like, well, you were at work. I woke up in the middle of the night, and there were 2 of them standing at the foot of the bed, shoulder to shoulder. Didn't say anything. They were just standing there. It's like, what did you do? Like,
to what? Right? Yeah, to what? To beings?
Aliens, grays. Standing shoulder to shoulder, you know, not saying anything. Said, what'd you do? Covered my head with the sheets and prayed that they would go away. And so now I'm like, they're coming to the house while I'm gone. I asked them not to, and now they're in the house while I'm gone. So I'm pissed. You know,
You're frustrated because there's just no sense of trust there.
Well, there's one-sided. It's one-sided.
Yeah.
It's like, it would be like if I asked you, what's the weather like today? Or if I asked you what color your shirt was and I couldn't see you, and you were like,
Right.
well, it's not orange. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, dude, okay, well,
Yeah, not clear
be
enough.
a little more specific. And it's always
Yeah.
like, well, you can't handle it. It's for a greater purpose. Just trust me.
Mm.
What's this greater purpose?
Mm-hmm.
The idea was, if shit hits the fan, what we're doing will enable you to be with us in some way, on the craft, wherever we are, live or going. It's something to do with like that. And it was a good thing. And I'm like, okay, so that ties into the dreams. I'm having these dreams, go out and there's just this lattice work of UFOs in the sky, and they're just discs, and they're multicolored, and they're flashing colors, and they're everywhere. And there's just this sense that they've shown themselves, and it's not an invasion. They're not attacking. They're just flexing. They're just saying, know that we're here, know who's boss around here, and y'all better act right. And that's just for all of humanity. And life still goes on. Everybody's going to work, but there's just this like, Jesus Christ. Like, that kind of is the vibe. And I had 2 dreams like that. And one dream, the water levels were really high. It wasn't flooded, but it was flooding. And, I talked to somebody else that's had experiences, and oddly enough, she heard robotic male voices. I heard robotic female. Why? It's almost like they're trying to make you more comfortable by giving you something that's, I don't know. So,
Hey, David, at this point in time, have you confined these events inside your family, or is this being shared with your wife's family, your family?
this is just within our own family.
Okay.
There were nights where we had horses that would run wild on our property for a while. And the horses were in the backyard one night, and there was just like this, boom, just this burst of light, and all the horses were like, and they took off running, and my dog started barking at the horses, ran after the horses, and the light, I just, my wife just grabbed my hand real tight. It's like 10:30 at night, just stuff like this going on, like nonstop. Little orange or red, I can't remember, light outside of the window one night, having all these crazy dreams, There was a second dream where there was the lattice work of the UFOs. I'm sorry for talking so much, but
No, it's okay. It's okay.
so there was another dream at the lattice work UFOs. Same vibe. They'd shown themselves, no threat, but you better watch yourself. And my son is sleepwalking, and he's walking into the window, trying to go to, and I'm like, they're trying to draw him outside. Why are they trying to draw him outside? Is that just a dream? Does it matter? Is it coincidental? I don't know. But it was going on at the same time my wife is seeing beings, and I'm seeing craft close enough to throw a rock at something. I'm seeing orbs flying around, X-shaped things flying around the back of this thing that looks like it's out of Star Wars.
And I mean, it sounds like it's relentless. And
yes.
I mean, is it every week? Is it every day? How often is this happening?
Honest to God, to my recollection, I would say on average about 3 nights a week for about 3 years.
Wow.
I mean, it was so often that it literally got to the point where it wasn't like, oh, wow, look, a thing. It was like, what?
Yeah,
what
here we go again. Yeah.
And so, and all the while, I'm waking up like I've got 4 white discolorations in a row on the back of my calf. I've got a little scoop out of my shin. Is it some scar from a time ago? I don't know. I woke up one morning, there were 2 little holes in my pointer finger, and this fingernail and this fingernail fell off. And that happened twice. And I just put Band-Aids on it and try to go about my day and not think about it. But I'm like, dude, is this connected to that? Is it not connected? Am I having some kind of fungal infection? What's going on? My wife would wake up, she was pregnant, she'd have a little like scab on her belly button, and she was freaked out. I'd have little scabs on mine. I'd wake up just sweating so bad that I was soaked through to the mattress. I'd have to put like 4 or 5 towels down, And this would happen frequently. I'm like, am I having nightmares? Is it like what's happening? I started smoking and drinking coffee to stay awake, so I wouldn't fall asleep, so they wouldn't come.
Right.
And
What was it like on the nights when they didn't come? Were you sitting there like you guys are watching TV and you're like, oh, I hope they don't come, and then they did, and then they didn't, and you're relieved? Like, how did it? Were you what emotion were you met with when they did come? When you're just having a normal family evening?
At this point, nothing was normal. It was very strained. I started drinking pretty heavily at nighttime just to deal with the stress of it. I would just numb myself with either alcohol or TV shows just to not think about it. If it wasn't coming, if it was a night where nothing was happening, you know, so yeah, it just wasn't good at all ever. You know, it was just stressed. And my wife was like, you better not bring those things in the house again. I'm like, I'm not. She's like, stop Googling it, stop researching it, stop looking for them, stop talking to them.
Right. Because, and I'm going to tell you, we have about 15 minutes left. So I want to get to how you got rid of these guys. But I want to know if there was a part of you that didn't want them to come, and then a part of you that did want them to come.
Yeah, I mean, you know, because you feel special. There's a part of you that feels like, oh, wow, this is happening to me. And
did you feel like you were getting any answers? Did you feel like you were ever getting any closer to the reason?
No, it was all one-sided. I mean, they hold the key. They're in control. I cannot emphasize that enough. But, you know, there's so much more to this. But to answer your question, it became too much. And I kind of wrapped my head around the fact that this is not a good thing. These are not space brothers come to save us. Oh, and I saw one of them one night. You know, and I had heard a voice in my head that said, communication would work better if we could do this face to face. I was like, could it? Because I'm not. So, like, and then people are like, oh, well, you must have agreed. I was like, I must not have. They do what you want. You know, and so, like, I saw one night, you know, I'll try to answer your question, but it appeared there was a mist, you know, because I can't speak for my wife, but I can speak for myself. There's this mist. Like I'm sitting there playing video games one night. It's 1 o'clock in the morning because I'm afraid to go to bed. I see this little shadow run by the window in the door. It's a wooden door with a square window. I ignore it. Shadow runs by again. I ignore it. Runs by a third time. I'm like, okay, is this something weird? And then there's just this mist, just molecule by molecule, just this mist coming in out of nothing right in the window. And it just starts like coalescing until it's like, there's a gray. And I mean, it's as real as there was somebody on UFO Twitter that drew it for me, like a police sketch. I doodled a little thing and I explained it to him. It's exact. I mean, it looks just like it's like I'm looking in the face of it. The ridge up its head was a little darker in his depiction. It was a little lighter, you know, but it had like a darker ridge that went up its head. But just the eyes were just massive. Like they would have come all the way back here. Had wrinkles around its mouth, just a little boomerang. The picture on my Twitter looks just like it. And I was like, that is not the female. This female I've been talking to, that ain't it. I don't what is this? You know, and I just like, I'm 6 feet away from it. And I can see like it's got really high, hard cheekbones. I can like see the shadows under the cheekbones. And I'm like 6 feet away from it. I just look away and I say, no. Just, you know, and I look back and it's not there. And I look out the window. My dog's just like, her hackle is up, that ridge of hair that runs down the back. Her hackle's up. She's sniffing under the car, and sniffing the front fender, looking around. And I'm just like, what in the hell? And I've replayed that in my mind a million times.
What are you doing? Are you sitting on the sofa? What are you doing at this point?
I was sitting on the coffee table. Kind of close.
You're sitting.
Close to the TV.
Oh, got it. Low table.
Video games. and the door was about 7 feet away. I stood up and took a step, and I'm 6 feet away from the door when I saw this happen. And so that's when I also kind of went like, that's not matching up with the voice I'm hearing. My wife had dreams. I have to include this. She had dreams about they landed in some big city, and all these people were clamoring to go see it. And she heard a voice. And again, she thinks this is all stupid. She hates all this stuff. But this voice in her head in the dream says, one day this is going to happen. Only you can hear us right now. And if you choose, you can get on the craft with us and leave. And she said, no. So, and
I think I have that picture if you want it, if I can put it up on screen here.
Oh, wow. That is awesome, man.
Yeah.
This is it,
That
right?
is awesome.
That's it.
That's scary looking, man.
That's identical. And you know what? It really looked old. Like the wrinkles around its mouth were really like, it looked old. And the first thought that was in my mind was like zombie. Like that thing is not, there's no emotion there at all. It's just like, you know, it's just zombie. So, you know, and then I did bring it up to my parents eventually at Christmas 2013 at dinner. And my mom likes to go around the table like, how'd your year go? And I just am like, you know, I'm being abducted by aliens. I don't know if I'm being abducted by aliens. I've not had regressive hypnosis. I don't know what's going on. Okay, I just know that they're in my house. I'm seeing them. My wife's seeing them. We're having dreams about the apocalypse. There's craft everywhere and orbs everywhere.
And from what you mentioned, because I actually called a friend about this topic that you just brought up. I said, you know, I asked my friend Carlene, who was on our show, who does regressionist work, and she said it has to be something that you want. And I said, I don't think David wants to remember.
Oh yeah, no.
Okay.
I mean, I did some like transcendental meditative type trances, self-induced, to try to remember. And I had some flashes of like being led down this long curved hallway by this woman alien with black hair, and seeing like arched doors, and then, you know, being on a table and seeing the tops of their little heads. But that could all be in my imagination. I don't know. I don't really put a lot of stock in that, but I've heard other people describe things, and I'm like, God, that's eerily similar. You know, but I don't really put a lot of stock in that. And no, I don't want regression, because one of the things that flashed in my mind was like being in some kind of chair with a tube down my throat, and I don't want to know what's going on. That flash in my head, that could just be imagination and paranoia run wild. I'm not on that, and I'm not telling anybody that's what happened. Absolutely, you know, that's just the flash in my mind. I don't know. I'm not putting.
You don't want to actualize that into your consciousness to where you're like, oh, okay, now I remember that. I get it. I just had to throw it. I just had to throw it out there to find out. But I understand.
Yeah. And I want to be rational about it too, and say that like the voices in my head and the dreams, I have a hard time believing that. I have a hard time believing I saw a gray. I believe my wife. I know I saw craft and orbs and lights that would respond to my request. So I'm at Christmas dinner, breakdown. My wife, my kids, everybody leaves the table. And my dad is just like, you know, son, this is not new topic. This has been going on since I was a kid. You need to talk to your mother, because she's had some similar experiences. Do not dox my mother, by the way, for anybody listening. But she tells me that like when she was 19, she was at a Christian camp and she heard wrestling in the closet. She opened the door. There's two little silhouettes in there. She slammed the door shut. They pushed back. She slammed it again, ran out to the counselor's cabin. She said, there's little things in my closet. And he says, Cecilia, those are demons. And they've come to like, you know, manipulate you into not being Christian anymore. And then again, when she was 37, around the time, late 30s, early 40s, around the time I saw a UFO in 1997, she said she woke up one night and there were three little short silhouettes at the bottom right corner, upper left corner up here, and then there was a man, like a silhouette of a man. He had like a staff or a rod in his hand. He lifted the rod up in the air, and the three little silhouettes disappeared, and he proceeded to tell her like how she was going to die. Now, if my mother hears this, she's going to go, "Oh my God, David, what are you doing?" But I mean, it's part of it. It's just true.
Part of the story.
It's just part of it, you know.
Sure.
Also, while this is going on, my brother-in-law catches wind of it. He practices, I don't know if he's jealous or if he wants to find out it's true. He practices Necronomicon sigil magic, says he conjures a reptilian. Ends up spending 2 weeks in the mental hospital. This is very sensitive information. I don't want people, you know, being like, "Oh, I need to go talk to him and talk to him." It's like, mind your business. Believe me or don't. You know, he ends up 2 weeks in the mental hospital. Now I got to deal with that. And then I'm getting, you know, I'm also getting like followed by helicopters. And there was a guy that followed me through a shopping center all the way to my car. His car just so happened to be parked like right next to mine. He takes my picture from like 4 feet away and just slowly lowers the camera and just stares at me like that. And then he gets in his car, his little all black car, convertible, pulls off, drives off. My parents' house burns down. This is all happening around the same time. On Facebook, I'm getting, you know, stalked by this dude that's got a profile picture of like a trench coat and a gun with a UFO from the banner. 100 of my photos get liked in a day. I block them. Happens again the next day with some weird profile, block him. I don't know if that's connected. That could all be not connected at all, but it was happening. So I have an absolute mental breakdown at Christmas in 2013. Talk to my dad, talk to my mother. This has to stop. My mother's like, "David, those are demons." My wife is like, "David, those are demons." I don't know if they're demons or not. I don't know if this is something good. I don't know if they enhanced my DNA and now I can survive on a spaceship if they have to take me away during the apocalypse. I don't know. I have no idea. But at this point, I'm so strung out that I'm like, I can't live like this anymore. So they start praying for me. They encourage me to get back into the Bible. I come to terms that this is not a good thing. And these are not space brothers come to save us. I'm like, okay, I take all of my t-shirts, alien books, all this stuff. I go to get my brother-in-law's black magic books. I take all that, I burn it. I invite somebody out to the house that's like a new age kind of healer. She sages the house. Another friend of mine is like a new age crystal guy. He buries organite all in the yard. I have like church pray over me. I met with a pastor. I had somebody anoint me with oil. I started practicing, Enochian type stuff to summon archangels. I took on the Christ consciousness. I was doing like Kundalini rising and chakra cleansing and everything I could do. I stopped drinking. Everything I could do to pull myself out of a negative place. And that's when it started tapering off in the same way it came. Beings left, craft started leaving, little lights in the sky, and then just, and now it's gone, and it's still gone. I'll occasionally wake up in the wee hours of the morning, and I'll see something weird, and I'm like,
You know what, David? I have a lot of respect for you already, and I'm going to tell you why. Because if it were me and they told me I could make your hair grow back, I would probably suffer an abduction for that. I would. If they said, "We promise you full head of hair, Nathan," this would be, it'd be tough to say no. You got, you understand where I'm coming from.
That's that's a pretty sexy offer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I want to echo what DJ is saying. Sorry, I got a little choked up there, but it takes a ton of guts to do to share this story with everybody. And
I'm sorry for going manic on y'all.
No, I mean, for me, I mean, there's so many layers of the story that kind of hit me. But watching you tell it is actually one of the most important components of this, because it's obvious to me how impactful this experience was to you and how difficult it is to talk about it. So I really want to thank you for coming on the show to share this with everyone. And only because I hope that in sharing the story, it it helps process this and helps you come to peace with it.
That's my hope too. I mean, that's part of why I did it, just because, you know, I cannot just sit down at dinner with some friend and be like, hey, did you hear about the thing in politics? And be like, I don't care, man. Like, I just don't care.
That's never a good conversation to have anywhere.
No, it's never a good conversation, but it
Yeah.
is. It's
But,
hard
yeah.
living with it and just
Yeah,
not
it
being
is.
able to be like, dude, there's aliens flying around doing
Yeah.
God knows what. I don't care about anything. I mean, I do. Okay, and that's why I'm thankful for my wife, because she's very good at just being like, hey, the toilet's clogged. Go fix it.
You have a yeah, you have a life here. Go cut the
yeah.
grass.
Mhm.
Go feed the horses.
You know, focus, David. So, like, it's difficult. And also, you know, I feel like I'm not the only one that's been through this.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Yeah, we just learned all about Jim Sparks. Some similar experiences to you, Chris Bledsoe, Terry Lovelace, obviously Anjali. So yeah,
It's a
you're
long
not
list.
alone.
Yeah,
And by the way,
definitely
I
not.
want to say this, David. You look very healthy. Right? You really do look very healthy.
Well, I'll say that back to getting rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
That was part of it, was like cutting out the drinking, cutting out just the negativity that was in my life. Having to like get out of that was a part of it, and I still continue that to this day. Like, have you seen that meme that's got like Rocky working out? It said like introverts preparing to make a phone call. That is exactly what I did before I came here.
I love that.
To do that, because my
Nice.
levels of stress and anxiety are that high that I have to, you know,
Sure.
do that. And I do think it's a constant battle. And I will say, I'm not against love and light. I know the story I just told was dark and stressful and confusing, but I'm not against love and light. You know,
Yeah.
I did have some experiences and all that where I wasn't creeped out, and I didn't feel threatened. I just felt like they were showing themselves to me as almost like a consoling kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just think of this, David, like this is our yoga room. And you can come to this space anytime that you want and talk to Nathan and I and let it out there. And we will welcome you to have you on here and talk about it. It's a beautiful thing. It's not it's an experience that a lot of us think would be great. And some people do have some great experiences, and some people have horrific experiences. For example, correct me if I'm wrong, Nathan, Chris Bledsoe said he was healed during his first interaction of Crohn's disease. Right. Yet Anjali spent 6 hours and said that she's not healed.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a mixed bag for sure.
Yeah, it's a very mixed bag. I don't think they're all the same beings. And if Anjali said as much, she said there's some beings out there that are not as benevolent as the beings that she's been interacting with. And the 2 that left the council, and then the other 4. And I think that's what got our friend Lampy. Shout out to S.A. Lampy 1947. She was very upset by knowing that there's something out there that's ominous, I would say, Nathan.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
if I could interject, I would say
Please.
maybe not evil, but impartial. They don't care.
Yeah.
It's on it's their playing field, and you're just kind of like the dupe. Almost like if an NBA team played against like a middle school basketball team. Like,
sure.
It's just, you're not even in the same league, and they know it, and they just don't really care. It's not evil as much as it's just like you're not playing by your rules, you're playing by their rules. And I just don't know. It's also confusing. But if I can get outside of my own experience, and I just try to because I just try to hammer home, I don't know what it all means. I don't know if the dreams and the voices correlate. I don't know. So I'm not trying to speculate, but if I can speculate now, I'll say that there's multiple beings. There's a lot going on here. I don't know why, because you'll have a debunker skeptic go, why? Why in the world would there even be one, much less multiple? I don't know, dude. I have no idea. You know, I wish I knew. And maybe that's where we're going with all this.
Sure.
I want to say from my part that the NBA versus middle school team actually happened last year when Kevin Durant was healthy, Kyrie Irving and James Harden, and they were beating teams by 30 until one of the three of them would get injured. So anyway, so we did get to see that. Maybe it was the Memphis Grizzlies. Just kidding, Memphis. Calm down. Okay.
No, but David, I think to kind of bring it to a close today, the timing means something. I think there's a reason why now is the time to tell this story. There's a reason why we're hearing more stories being told, and that reason may not be clear yet, but may become clear. And I think your courage to come forward will encourage others to come forward, and that has a cumulative power that will lead to something. So, and I don't know what, but I want to thank you for being willing to share this story in the way that you have, and I hope we get a chance to chat with you again.
Yeah, I mean, let me know. I think I've just absolutely mentally vomited everything that happened to me. So I don't know what more there is to say, and diving into all of it is clearly like triggering and not a good place for me to be mentally. But I'm always down to chat with somebody about it, and like you said, I do agree that part of why I did it is to encourage more people, even if you just saw an orb or just a triangle or a ghost or something, like, just this does seem to be the time that pushback needs to occur. Because I don't know what Lou's up to, but I like it. I don't know where this is going, but I hope that it's going in a direction where the general public, don't tell my story.
Yeah.
But we do need to start wrapping our heads around the fact that this isn't Chinese drones.
That's right.
Some of it may be, but I don't think all of it is.
Let me give you an example of the kind of inspiration that you and people like you have provided. I had a chat online with somebody that's coming on our show named Troy Broskowitz. He's a former pilot from Special Operations, somebody that I flew with, somebody that was a leader of mine, someone I hold in high regard. I would never, ever, ever have uttered the word UFO in front of him. And even now he's going to know about my experience. He's going to come on the air with Nathan and I and Chris Lato. And that would not have happened except for I feel bolder. I'm emboldened because of people like yourself. So that's what the effect is. So I want to thank you. And we're here for you. And we really do appreciate your time.
People before me doing it,
Yeah.
I mean, I do feel like there's like a domino effect happening.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. David Fravor inspired me, many people, but I can tell it. But I've even, like I said, even though I came out with my story after David Fravor, I don't know that 2 weeks ago, even, I would have called Troy Broskowitz and said, "Hey, Troy, we'd like you to come on air and talk about aviation and related to UFOs." And that probably wouldn't have happened. But I'm inspired by people that are coming out and talking. So thank you so much.
Yeah, seriously.
It just occurred to me that it's more than just the three of us talking right now.
That's right. Yes, we're on YouTube right now.
Correct.
So thank you. I want to say, so let me just say a couple things before we let Nathan go. And then we're going to make our memorial to Kevin P. Childress, the retired DOE special agent whom we lost out of UFO hashtag UFO Twitter. I want to say I love you guys. I realized that we do have some scraps and some arguments there. You can just see what David just there showing a peace sign. Please treat him and his story with love and respect. And I really appreciate what this community has given to my life. So for David P. Lanier, for Nathan at Awave Soul on hashtag UFO Twitter, this is DJ San Marco saying peace out, one love, and we'll see you down the road.